everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the podcast Sitting Tall with Casey Ellen and my buddy
Tony Chamberlain.
And we will be seeing a good friend of mine that we met on, keep meeting people on Instagram, Tony. But
that is the place to be sometime, you know what I mean?
It is the place to be. But all the way from, we are not going to say she's from an undisclosed bunker that under wraps. Welcome to the podcast, Melissa.
Hi, guys. I'm super happy to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me to this episode.
And who is our little friend? What is his
This
name?
is Tucker. He is on full alert. He just heard me say hi. He probably thinks somebody is here.
Do that, or we're going to mention his favorite words, and he's going to go crazy. That's probably what's going to happen.
Tucker, welcome, Tucker.
We're just going to pre-apologize for any commentary that may leave his cute little face.
Loud.
I'm loving that he's part of the podcast because it brings another audience to us, pet lovers. They're going to see the dog and they're going to be like, hey, I love the dog and this, that, and I'm going to start bringing like new things. Like every time we're going to have a new thing added to our podcast so we can get more and more followers from different people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
What mug are we going with?
Oh my God, dude. Mug. I just got this the other day. Star Wars, man. Because May the 4th be with you is coming up, baby. So
I appreciate that.
I was like,
Melissa, I don't know if you check out the podcast, every episode Tony brings in a new mug, and I had no idea for the first like 2 or 3 episodes, and I was just like, wow.
Well, I don't know if I can bring in a new mug every time, but I try to like fancy once in a while. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll bring in like a wine glass or something next time. Who knows? You never know.
And you know what else I love is that meme. I love it on the last day of April where it has JT Justin Timberlake's face and it says it's gonna be May. I love it.
Yes.
Oh my God. I kind of love May a little bit because first of all, I'm a big Star Wars fan, so May the 4th be with you. I'm actually like trying to get some new Star Wars gear from a friend of mine, and I'm pretty souped about it. But also, it's Cinco de Mayo. Come on, like you can't go wrong with Cinco de Mayo. Like that's just, to me, it just screams like celebration of food. Like I just want to go out and eat food, and like obviously it is a drinking holiday also, but I'm not very much of a big drinker nowadays, so I'm all about the food, so it's all good.
Yeah, foodie over here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. So let's get into the little nitty gritty here, Melissa. Tell us a little bit about your story. About Tony doesn't know you. The podcast that we're introducing you to doesn't know you. Tell us before the accident. Give us a little overview.
Good. There's always so much to unpack when you've lived a couple different lives, right, Casey? You guys know life is it's crazy. It's beautiful. It's hard, but it's also very humbling. And I am currently in my early 30s. I've been paralyzed for about 15 years, and it was just right after high school. I never really got a chance to grow up, figure out who I was or what I wanted to do or live life on my terms. Because after high school, I did go through my first breakup, and I know we all handle those however we decide to handle them. Some of us like to get distracted and maybe numb what we're feeling. I was definitely in that mindset as a young 18-year-old, and alcohol was a part of the picture, and it ended up taking away every ounce of freedom from drinking and driving underage one night and not making it back to my bed where I did intend to go. And instead, there's so many variables to the crash, but long story short, alcohol was the cause of the crash. About 8 times, neither me or my friend wore a seatbelt, so both of us ended up leaving the vehicle. And while she landed on her butt, breaking her pelvis and her tailbone, I unfortunately ended up landing on my head, which caused a traumatic brain injury, and it also ended up shattering 5 vertebrae. And I don't remember anything. It's probably a good thing, even though, I don't know, at this point, I feel like I would love to watch the crash. Like, I would like to see like a video, like, where did I go wrong? Like, what exactly happened? Because I don't remember anything, and so, to not remember what, took place and then wake up to something none of us could prepare ourselves for, it's just kind of gray. There's a lot of emotions, but I was in a coma for 10 days, and I only bring that up because the only thing I do remember after the crash that I ended up having, God, that's how I shared it with my mom when I came out of the coma. And I had just said to her, because there was now a ventilator in my throat, which robbed me of a voice. So I had a little whisper, and I whispered to her and I said that I felt so stupid. And keep in mind, I'd been asleep for 10 days, and this is the first thing I'm telling her. And of course, she's looking at me, square in the eyes, and she just simply asked me what I was talking about. And I said that I felt so stupid and that I kept arguing with God. And she responds and she says, "What do you mean you argued with God?" And I tell her that I just kept begging him to please let me go and that I don't want to come back to this. And I just remember that I kept hearing no again and again, and being told that I will live and he will save me, because there's many things that I still have left to do. And,
Wow.
you know, of course, in that young little mind, I didn't quite understand the weight of what that was going to be, or what I was even waking up to. But I do know now that God saw a bigger picture, gave me a very unique second chance, and I've been living on mission ever since then.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing.
Crap, I had no idea. I know we've you know, we've spoken, like, you know, and I had no idea it was no, I kind of think about like that sometimes. You said you want to kind of watch what happened, like where things kind of went wrong. I was actually just talking to my therapist about that the other day, because, like, you know, we always want an answer of, we want, at least for me, I always kind of, I want, like, where did something go wrong? What did I do?
Yeah.
Like, I would love to see, you know, I love to see the dive, you know, just saying like, oh, okay, that's where you messed up, Case. Like, that's what it is. Audience member to
Yeah.
that.
An audience to your tragedy instead of the main character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, get a little different perspective of it. Maybe, who knows, maybe I might come to, you know, a little bit more of a term like that.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually was just speaking about this the other day with somebody. Because I have a 5-year coming up at the end of May. That's my 5-year anniversary of me being from my accident, actually. And I tend to go back, but like just like you, I blacked out. I don't really know what happened when I was in a motorcycle accident. Let me catch you up a little bit. So I was in a motorcycle accident. I went flying from my motorcycle, but as soon as like I hit the curb from which started the accident, is right when I blacked out. So like I have no idea what happened to me after that, but just opening my eyes and looking up to a starry sky, and like I was like, oh, okay, everything's good, because I really didn't feel any pain or anything. So I was like, I must have just blacked out to, you know, make sure that I wasn't like injured or freaking out in any way. And then I'm just waking up to try to get up, and that's when I found out that, oh yeah, my body's not allowing me to get up, so something is definitely wrong. And it's just like you guys said, it's interesting if you can actually go back and see what happened. It would definitely change, not like change things, but I'd like to see the perspective of like you know, an outsider, like looking, like just watching a movie. You know what I mean? Like what happened? What could I have done wrong? I mean, what could I have done differently or changed or blah blah blah. But at the same time, I do look back and say, you know, things happen for a reason. This is why, you know, I believe life is all about just like things happening, just like I said, for a reason. And we are put on this earth to travel a path. It might not be a smooth path, but, you know, it's a path that we all are going to take, and we're going to do it in our own ways. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and like if this didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be speaking to you fine people today. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
we would have
I
never
wouldn't
met
have met you.
you guys. We would have
Exactly.
probably never met. And you know, I've heard people tell me, well, you know, how do you know things happen for a reason or whatever, you know, because everybody has their own perspective. And it's like, whatever, regardless of what you believe, you have the opportunity to give something whatever reason you want to. You know, like that's up to us. We can't change the circumstance at hand, but we do get to decide what we do with it and how we move from this point forward. And it's such a, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's just such a humbling journey. And I'm grateful. And, you know, even to this day, like right now, like, yeah, of course, do I miss my body working like it did? And even the simple task of picking my own nose, 100% miss it. But I wouldn't change this because I'm honestly in such a good place, like emotionally and mentally, and just at peace with what I'm waking up to, that to me, having a physical body working isn't worth trading that, you know? Like I know so many people that are able-bodied that are just miserable in their lives, miserable in their relationships, and I wouldn't change my injury for that, you know? I just wouldn't. And I don't know if that's a weird way of looking at things, but I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird, you know, to maybe hear it as an able-bodied person or even not able-bodied, to think that someone to an extent of an injury to this degree wouldn't change it.
No.
And it's not because, I mean, you guys can agree, it's not because we don't miss the physical freedoms, you know? Who doesn't want to sit on a toilet and wipe their own parts, or feed themselves their own chicken nuggets without needing assistance, or, you know, wipe your eyes after a good cry? You know, those are all the things that we so easily take for granted. And yeah, I want them back. Hopefully they do come back. But I definitely don't live every day stuck in that mindset of just wanting recovery. I found so much peace since me personally, everybody believes in what they choose to believe. I have a major relationship with God at this point, and I just have so much peace with where I'm at. And you know, I don't have the answers. I don't know the rhyme or the reason how it happens, but just surrendering to a bigger plan and knowing that your story can be used in such ways you couldn't even imagine, and waking up every day and tackling it hour by hour sometimes, and figuring out, you know, what you want to do next and what kind of goals you want to crush. those have been the ways that have just helped me find purpose in my pain. And rather than looking at my injury as a punishment, I just see it as protection. I feel like I've been protected from so many things that could have, should have happened. And instead, thankfully, they haven't. And now I can help other people hopefully not end up in the situation that I put myself in.
I love your mindset. Like I feel like I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm kind of at peace with a situation, and that, you know, like maybe I am here to help and inspire. Beginning, I don't know if you could speak to this. I think Tony would say like, oh, you're an inspiration. I used to get like I used to get angry a little bit. I don't want to be your inspiration. I just want to be me. But now like I'm starting to think that, you know, like if my story or whatever I'm going through, my struggles, if that helps somebody in some sort of way with what they're dealing with or whatever it may be, then hey, you know what? Like maybe that's my path and where you're at in a little bit.
Well, Casey, listen, I want to make sure that you understand that is that's exactly how I was as well. You're not an oddball, feel that way or have felt that way. I 100% couldn't stand it either. I was like, yo, what if I don't want to be your inspiration? Who's going to be my inspiration? Like, can I get some inspiration? Because I'm struggling. I don't want to be yours. Yeah. And it's completely normal. How many years has it been since your injury?
It's going to be the big 10, big decade.
Double digits?
Yeah, I'm hitting double digit.
You're such a big 10-year-old. I love it.
Oh, cut it out.
You know what's so funny? I kind of want to bring it up because me and Casey had a conversation about this, same exact thing that we're talking about now. And maybe you can kind of like bring it into the podcast case. But remember, you were talking about how like you almost can't remember how things were, you know, before because of like how long you've been in your chair. And I think people need to know that like for me, I can't speak for you two, but for me, like it took a second to get comfortable in my situation, but at the same time, like now that I'm more free and open-minded, like I feel more comfortable in my skin, but at the same time, it's just I think it's just like another chapter in my life. You know what I mean? So like me doing this, it's still me. I'm still me, but it's just a newer chapter, and it's just learning and evolving, you know, in our own skin, you know?
Yeah, it's version 2.0.
Yes.
And, you know, also, if I could touch on that, I think it's not only because of how many years we've been injured that we don't remember things. For me, I notice I don't remember things because the stuff I don't remember is the stuff I took for granted. I never sat on a toilet seat and said, wow, I need to remember this because one day I'm not going to sit on a toilet seat. I never said, oh, let me remember what it feels like to zip up this zipper. You know, I never thought about that before. So I think that's another reason why we don't remember like what it feels like to be able-bodied, because we never actually stopped and appreciated it.
I mean, I think that's very valid why we might not remember. Like whenever people ask me, they're like, oh, don't you want to walk? And I'm just like, listen, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, walking's overrated. I'm like, just give me a little bit of hand function and I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, I feel like, you know, because you didn't take for granted, like, you know, going for a run or going walk around the block, walking the dog down the street. Like those are things that it's been, I feel like this is kind of like how I've been my whole life. This is, you know, basically, I'm 36 now, so basically almost a third of my life I've been in the chair. And you know, the first third were children, and you know, we're not really remembering much. So like, you know, like a bulk of my mattered and remember kind of, so I don't really, hard to even think like bring that stuff up. I feel like this is just me, and I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
At this point in this being me.
Yeah, and I think with our levels of injuries, Casey, like I'm diagnosed as C3, but I'm functioning at a C5. I'm exactly where you are in the mindset of the legs are overrated because legs make life easier, yes, but your upper body makes you independent. You know, you could do everything you need to possibly do with functioning arms, working fingers, all of the upper body muscles. That legs make it quicker, make it go smoother. It takes a quarter of the time, but it's the upper body that makes you independent. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, because I was C4, 5, 6, and now like my left side's kind of C5 and my right side 4.
Well, on your C4 side, do you have bicep?
A little bit. It's like a small trace. That's why they say it 4, because my left side, I bicep curls and all that. My right side, it's more like my shoulder kind of
compensates. So you're Arnold Schwarzenegger on the right and a little SpongeBob on the left.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I call my right side my Nemo fin. So I got my functioning fin, and then I got my little Nemo arm that does just kind of hangs out sometimes. There for show.
I love it. Listen, it gets better. I've got triple the amount of years. Tony has a little bit more than you. Casey, 5 more years than you, but it gets easier. Movement does come. They give you an 18-month window know of recovery and it's complete bogus. Yes, I get it. They have to tell you something. It's hard for man to understand a body they did not create. Like my brother's a diesel mechanic. He could work on a diesel truck all day because man made it. They know the answers. This body, we didn't make it, so we don't have the answers. And we're just trying to figure it out as injuries come and illnesses come. And we're just doing what we can. But if there's a time to be paralyzed, I would say now is it, because technology's banging, resources are available, and there's opportunity to get better and stronger.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
when you got first hurt, Tony, I don't know about it, but they told me they're like, oh, you're going to need to be on a breathing machine the rest of your life. They're like, you're not going to be able to move anything but make shoulders and all this stuff. I 10 years out, and I still notice that I'm gaining things. Like even when I go to therapy, my therapist like, oh wow, we couldn't do this last year. Or this. So as long as you keep working and you work at it, like I feel like with anything, work at it lower. It might not be the big glamorous results that gains are still gains. And any little bit of independence gain at this point, I'll take.
And maybe we're not pop locking and dropping it yet, but how many years do we pray just to scratch our own nose? You know what I mean? How many years do we pray for that?
That's it.
Yeah, it's funny because I tend to go back sometimes and look at like how I was in the beginning and how I am now, and it's so different. Like I remember laying on the table going, I can't even sit myself up. I can't move. I can't do this. And now I'm over here living independently on my own, doing everything myself. And it's just amazing what the body can do and also what the mind can do if you actually tend to just free it. You know what I mean? Just like do what you want to do and not overthink things. You know what I mean? Because I think that tends to happen to a lot of people is they constantly like say to themselves negative stuff. And like if you keep doing that, it doesn't help with the body. The more positive you are, the more like the body reacts to it, I believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, basically you just said the body achieves what the mind believes. And so much of this life, it is a mental battle. And when you have a working body, the physical just distracts you, right? It gives you a vehicle, an opportunity to just distract yourself from what you're actually facing. And that is our emotions, our mental thoughts, everything that's weighing us down. The body just tends to help us distract that.
So, I wanted to talk to you. Tell us a little bit about your book. I know that's been, we spoke about it in the past. I think that's amazing. That's something that it's on my bucket list that I would like at some point. And I love that you crushed it.
It's not an easy thing. We're not even going to sit here and make it sound like it's easy, right? You guys get it. I got it out into this world a couple years ago, and I spent a few years writing it. I think a little over 2 years, maybe close to 3, because I didn't know where to start. I wasn't much of a reader prior to leaving middle school. When I was required to read, I didn't read electively after that, so I don't have all of this knowledge of, okay, how do you write a book? This is what people want to read. Is my story worth reading? All the things. We could talk ourselves out of something if we really want to, but I had this feeling, this burning feeling that it wouldn't go away. And so I just knew, okay, now's the time. I need to just start writing. And it took me a couple years because you're not always motivated. You're not always inspired. There's writer's block. You can't think of things for 4 months. Like, that's completely normal. But do think of stuff. You just got to go. You got to take it. And I learned if you don't write it down now and you say, oh, I'll remember that in 20 minutes. Nope, you probably won't. You're not going to remember it the same. So it took me a couple years, but I speak all across our nation, to many states in America. I've spoken to just to help people, one, bring the awareness to the cervical spinal cord injury life of what can happen from one poor decision like the one I made from drinking and driving, and then also just to bring hope and into people's journeys and to help people feel like they're supposed to be here. And that's one avenue of helping people. So I thought, okay, let me go into a different medium and let me try to write. And so that's where the book came into a reality. And I did self-publishing with a company in Arizona that I 10 out of 10 recommend to give you guys that information, because I didn't want to spend a couple years trying to sell my book to an editor and then find a publisher and hand over all the rights and all that stuff. And I mean, that's an option, but that's traditional publishing. And I just wanted to do the self-publishing just to get it out. I was done. I was ready. I'd already spent a couple years writing it, so I can give you guys all that information if you want to put it in the info of this podcast to help anybody else. But writing, it's a beautiful thing because we tend to shove so much down and, forget. But so much healing comes when you just go through every single phase, whether it's grief or anger or loss, and just face the problem head on. And for me, writing has been very healing. I finally started book number 2. Had a couple years of a writer's block, just wasn't sure where to go, not sure what angle to hit this time. But I have started number 2, and I can't wait to get that one out as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Amazing.
Great
So
news.
book number 1, it's Hope, Love, and Me, and where we can find it on Amazon.
Yeah, a couple different. So Amazon is a big one. That one, it's print on demand. So whether you do ebook or paperback, as soon as you purchase it, it prints to order. So that's also an awesome thing as well, because it's not like the old days where you got to stack up 500 books in your garage and one, hope they sell, or 2, get them out. And for us with our injuries, it's easy. And of course, they take a huge chunk of the book price, but it is what it is. It's convenient and it helps people. So Amazon, and then there's a couple other ones as well. Like I don't know, if you Google it, it'll pop up on many different platforms. But my next goal is to get it into stores, which I think there's about 300,000 books that come out a year. Maybe I'm overshooting that number, but there's a lot. So getting your book into a store is not an easy thing to do, but it's a goal. We're going to see what happens.
Well, I commend you just for getting a book out there, because like a lot of people, just like you said, they don't know where to start. They don't know where to go. And, you actually have a finished product where you was like, all right, I did it. I got it out there. And I commend you on working on a second book. This is awesome news. I can't wait to see where it goes from here, because a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people just don't know where to start. And like for me, my book is this podcast. I can't wait to see years from now, like where we've grown and where we've gone. Like, me and Casey have a really cool idea of like where we want to go with this. And, I can't wait to see what happens, because I am not a big writer or reader myself. So like a book probably wouldn't be something I would turn to. So that's why I love doing this, because it's something that I can always look back on, turn to, and listen to, or even watch, and see like our growth and like where we've been and where we're going.
Yeah, and different markers for progress. And that is true. And you bring up a good point. A lot of people feel defeated when they think about, their progress, or, oh, well, I didn't get a book out into this world, or I didn't complete my bachelor's degree, or I was evicted, whatever it may be. And we tend to compare the progress. I hate it. It's brought me down in the past. It's super unhealthy, because each of us have different testimonies, and there are 100 ways, 100 avenues to take in reaching that progress markers and helping as many people as possible. That I don't want anybody to see the stuff I've done or I'm doing and feel like they're not doing enough, because we have different stories for a reason, and I'm just grateful that they get to intersect.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I feel like a lot of that going, why do they have all these followers? Like, why do and they start comparing their lives? I feel like social media and the technology is great, and I love being able to stay in contact with all my friends, all that stuff. But then there's also that negative part where, like you said, caring, very unhealthy when it comes to that stuff, especially for the younger generation.
Oh, yeah.
Like when we were growing up, we didn't have that. Like we didn't have cell phone, school, like Twitter, Facebook, and all their things spread out. And so I feel like that something that here that we're not the only one. Tony, when you said about the podcast being your book, like that's exactly how I feel. Like I'm not a big reader. Like I used to read bump books, and that was where I stopped after that. And then
sounds about right.
In high school, got to do a book report. I do front page, middle page, back page, and I'll give you the best book report of your life. But so this I'm excited to see go. And I already seen difference from episode 1. Tell the difference of just the comfortability and just seeing how where we're going and what, like the angle, trajectory, and I'm just excited. Melissa, we talk times on the phone, but this is nice little FaceTime sesh, and get to just chop it up.
I'm just curious. I'm big into numbers and letters. Is this going to be episode 4? Will this be 4?
You will be episode 5.
5.
Yeah,
okay.
Episode 5.
I was gonna say, I started getting all tickled because 4 is my favorite number, you guys. Like, listen, I'm just gonna tell you the story because we're here. But when I got injured, I was on the 4th floor in room number 4 after paralyzing all 4 limbs. And in trauma ICU, there's only 2 visitors allowed at a time. And my mom was leaving my ICU room, so my aunt come in with my dad was already there with me. And as my mom was leaving, she ran into this little lady named Maggie who cleans the floors, right? I'm in a coma, so this was all being told to me. And after I woke up, of course, and the little Maggie lady says to my mom, she says, "How's your daughter?" And my mom says, "Oh, she's fine. Like, she's gonna be okay." And my mom goes to leave, and she goes, "No, listen to me. I want to tell you something." She goes, "Just so you know, there are 4 angels working on your daughter right now, and she is going to be completely okay." And of course, my mom hears that, and she runs back into the room because she's going to see these 4 angels, right? Like, she knows, she believes. So she's there. There's no angel. She couldn't see anything. And my dad,
Mhm.
quiet as a church mouse, right? Super, just very reserved. And my mom says to him exactly what she was just told. And my dad looks at her and he says, "Are you kidding me? Some guy just left my room and told me the exact same thing." And
Wow.
I'm
Wow, that gives me goosebumps right
Yeah.
there. Like, that's
And
crazy.
so ever since, of course, I've been told all this, I've just been connected to that number and just numbers in general. I find so much meaning and, different things. Like, I feel like God speaks to all of us in so many different ways. The way you hear his voice is different than me and vice versa. But it's beautiful. And like I said, there's just so much peace that comes, even with such traumatic situations, that there's so much peace available for all of us.
What a story, though. That's a crazy
Yeah,
story. Like,
that kind of
I've never heard
gave me
anything like
jeebies.
that. I know, it's just like, ooh, like we all. I think we all have like a little like I never saw anything like when I passed out. Like people have stories that like if they were in a coma, just like you said, like you were, or like if they just passed out for a few minutes. Sometimes people have stories that like it's pretty interesting because everybody has different experiences. Like a friend of mine that I used to work with, he actually told me that he died on a table one time because something happened to him. He got really sick and he died on the table for like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 minutes or something like that. And he told me the whole story about like what he saw when it happened. And like just like your story kind of gave me chills, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just crazy like how everybody has their own experience with like a higher level of something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be like you believe in God. It just if you believe in something that's higher and like I believe that that's power like overpowering and it's like it's a definitely a guide in life. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. Like I said, the story that you just told because I heard the same one from another person and it's very similar. It's not the four angels, but it's definitely very similar, and it's interesting to hear these things from other people too.
Yeah, it's really just reaffirming that there's the guys, this life isn't all that there is. And I'm not going to sit here and try to make it make sense because none of us have that information. But
Hmm.
there's no way that this is the end. There's just no way. There's too many
Yeah.
stories and too many things we've all faced. And you watch just a baby alone grow inside of a woman for 9 months and watch it come out a full human. To me, it's impossible for there not to be something more. That just gives me more peace and understanding that this is temporary. One day we will pop, lock, and drop it again. But besides that day, and just have conversation with each other, and that right there is a miracle within itself.
Hmm.
That's why I got the tattoo. I don't know if you've seen my tattoo. I'll send you pictures.
Hey, please
It's
do.
it's getting a guy getting out of the wheelchair, walking up the gate, the stairway to heaven, and yeah, no, that's exactly how I feel. No, and we'll figure it out when we get there.
Yep.
Hmm.
But you were saying before how you travel across the country, speaking to kids, all about So what does that necessarily entail? Because I know I see pictures and stuff online. One, you're teaching people about our what cervical and spinal cord be, and then also it's I think amazing that you're able about a lot of people. It's hard to people when they admit when they make mistakes or like and you're
Hmm.
like you do that. Going want to know like where that from and like,
So let me answer that with how it got started, and it got started only because a few weeks before I actually had the accident and woke up to this injury, I'd actually woken up in the middle of the night, and because I had a dream, I had to talk about, and I know we've all had some pretty crazy dreams that just feel real. And it was one of those where I ended up calling my best friend and I just said, like, "Hey, Kristen, I had the craziest dream." And it was like 2 a.m. or something like that. And of course, she was asleep. And she was like, "Melissa, call me back. Like, just tell me about it in the morning." And I was like, "No, dude, like, you gotta listen. This is the craziest dream I've ever had." And I just tell her, I was like, I was at this high school and I was speaking to thousands of students about driving and doing drugs. And she responded, she was like, "Well, you don't do drugs." And I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "I know, but I'm not sure what I was saying, but the students were listening to me, like they were getting it." And I just said that I think I want to do something like that when I grow up. And we laughed about it, went to bed, never thought about that dream again. And a little did either one of us know that just a few weeks later, I would be giving myself that exact story. And
Wow.
another chills. Give me
there's so much, right? I'm just so glad I can wipe my own tears these days. I'm not crying. I'm here. But
Oh, there's some onions being cut across. I see it over
yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's okay.
Mom's
Yeah,
cut.
I see it.
Mom's
it's
cutting
hot in here.
onions.
My eyes are sweating. Okay, so
Oh, yes, yes.
it's heavy sometimes. I don't think I was born to get paralyzed. That's not the reality. My own choices cause this to happen, and it is what it is, whether it's a freak accident or making a destructive decision like I did. Stuff happens. That's life. We can't stop that. To live is to suffer, and that's just how it is. So once I accepted that, and I realized that not only did I get a unique opportunity where I was not only the victim, but also the offender, that opened up doors with a platform to potentially reach the masses and help them understand that we are all literally one decision away from a different life. Whether that's good or bad, that's just the reality. And so I made it a goal to reach out to as many nonprofit organizations, high schools, universities, anywhere that I could find an email, get a phone number, whatever it may be, contact them and just say, hey, I spend a lot of time speaking. I'm willing to travel. Do you guys have a need for a keynote speaker? If so, let's hash out the details. I don't make a profit off of this. It has mostly been volunteer, but of course that is going to change one day, because the reality is there's only one way to keep a roof over your head. And right now I have my parents, but that could change tomorrow. So I just completed my master's degree 3 months ago in nonprofit management to one day successfully run an organization and just do that same thing, help as many people as possible while also physically surviving in a society where we need cash to do that. So, but that is not the goal. My goal is to help, and that is just the thread of my existence at this point. And I love it. There's been times I've woken up or I've gone to bed and, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of sharing the same story. I'm sick of reliving the same thing. And one night, it just smacked me in the face where it's like, you know what, Melissa, this may be your millionth time sharing this story, but every time you speak, it's somebody's first time hearing it. And to take that away from somebody else because you don't feel like doing it anymore is probably one of the most selfish things I could do. And it kills me to think that I could stand before God one day and him tell me that I wasted so much of the time and talents that he gave. So that's how I wake up. That's how I live. Just like I stated from the beginning, on a mission to just help people. And one last
I would say
my long-term goal, you guys was speaking, is I want to live in an accessible RV, fill up a whole back area full of books. I want to travel all across America with no travel restrictions, no wheelchairs damaged on airlines, which thankfully it doesn't happen that often, but it has. Just the accessibility to go anywhere and speak to any population of people, and maybe drop a book off at every single coffee shop I get to get an iced latte at.
that's awesome. I love it too. That's exactly what a lot of people do in their life, is they have dreams, and they, either you're going to nip it in the butt and push yourself to become great, or even help somebody else along the line, or you're just gonna sit in a corner and cry about life. But I love the way you're going about things. And the thing I wanted to touch upon is I was kind of thinking about what you were saying about saying your story over and over and over, because I feel like I do the same. But you got to think of your life almost like an entertainer. An entertainer, when they come up with a song or something, they go out and they travel around the world and they constantly sing the same songs. But at the same time, these people have never heard that song live. You know what I mean? And when you're talking, these people have never saw you live talking. So it might be repetitive, but at the same time, it's somebody's first time seeing you. And that's what constantly goes through my mind also too. I got to think, yeah, I must have said this a million times, but maybe that person hasn't heard my story. So that's awesome.
Yeah, you nailed it, Tony.
And I love how you I don't know if you realize
Did I?
no, Melissa did. She's
okay.
I don't know if you remember that song, beginning, it goes, to live is to suffer, but to survive,
Oh, yeah.
that's to find the meaning.
Define meaning and suffer. Yes,
I
yes.
love it.
So
I actually heard that too. When
I
I didn't want to interrupt her though. She's on a row.
I was like, okay, so I'm slipping, I'm falling.
I can't get
up.
up. Yes.
Someone dropped the beat. We got some lyrics already.
I was like, Melissa dropped it. She dropped DMX in there, but
she definitely dropped DMX in there. That's for sure.
I mean, I'm sure that's a quote from somebody else that DMX took, but R.I.P.
Yeah,
it
is a quote from somewhere. I don't remember where, but I'll be listening to DMX after this. Side
note,
listening to that song.
Life is good, you guys.
It's so funny because I was thinking the same exact thing you were thinking, Casey. As soon as she said it, I was like, DMX, right there, DMX, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow there.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna let it rock, and then you wanted to come in. I was like, Casey, remember DMX?
Casey DMX, remember that? Yes.
You're making mental post-its.
Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%. Might not be able to write down a sticky note right now, but I just did a mental sticky note.
Yeah, you're like, yo,
Exactly.
I got compartments for days in this brain.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm sure you and I, our abilities are kind of similar, kind of have those kind of similar, kind of mentally visualize things a little bit more because, physically you can't just sit there and go write down a note phone if our phone's available, but, fly, got that mental bam, bam.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, curious, Casey, and especially if anybody else is listening with our levels of injury, do you have a setup at nighttime where you're able to access your phone, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, I bought one of those things. They look like I think they call it. So it's kind of like a clips. I can put a picture at the end of a little thing. It clips onto my dresser that's next to my bed. So my phone is kind of like right by the side of my face, and then I Siri and voice control, so I can talk on the phone or FaceTime somebody.
Yeah.
So that little tricks that I found. I don't know anything.
No, so I don't. I could do what you just mentioned. I just haven't. I've been thinking about it though, because I'm sure, like you, when I'm in a wheelchair, my movement is completely different than when I'm laying down in a bed supine. I cannot use my arms the same. They're not as functional when gravity is completely against me. So it would be a Hey Siri type thing as well. And I do that. My phone's just further away from me on the magnet charger. But I'm trying to get as independent as possible. And I've just been trying to think of different ways because, like I mentioned, right now I have family support, but that could change any second. That could change. And I've been on cruise control for too long with the comfort of, calling on somebody when I need them. But my goals right now that I got the college thing done, not going for the PhD, I'm tapped out. That was enough. My goals right now are just to get as independent as possible with the movement that I do have.
Yeah, the voice control on there, it allows me to use certain apps that I was never able. Or a friend of mine, she showed me about this, and I'm able to control my television, control my Amazon Fire Stick. Before I'd be like, oh hey Dad, can you put the TV on? Or hey Dad, and like you said, you want to be as independent as possible.
Yeah.
I feel like that helps me out a lot at night because, like you said, laying down, my arms are I can kind of bend them a little bit, but they're not really functional to help me do much. So is a huge game. Well, just to form some sort.
Yeah, and this is off topic. I don't even know how much time we have left, but just to either end or reflect on what you just said, while we may have certain functions and abilities right now, this has only been a forefront of my thoughts as of recently, because I do have a friend who is actually a C5, C6 who has more function than we do. And after a kidney stone removal going wrong and a whole medical malpractice issue, he ended up becoming a quadruple amputee after that procedure. And all the function that he did have as a high functioning C5, C6 is completely gone, from legs being amputated above the knees and arms amputated above the elbows, that he lost all that independence. And so his goal now, living as a quadruple amputated quadriplegic, is to find new ways of doing things. And me knowing that while I have this movement right now, it could change also. So my goal is to be as independent as possible too, for the amount of time that I have left.
I feel like that's a really nice way to kind of put a little cherry on top here. Tony, you got anything else?
So I would just say, like, I appreciate you guys talking about, like, your injuries, because I can't speak upon that because I am paraplegic. I have function of my arms. I have function of, like, upper body. I cuts off pretty much mid-waist, but I do have a lot of function. And it's great to hear like how you guys do like routines, or like what makes you more independent, like gadgets and things like that, that maybe people that never like thought about, like like listening to this might go, oh, there is something I can look up or I can check out. Like it's cool to hear that Casey had that, to his bed and everything like that. Maybe somebody at home's like, oh, I wish I thought of that. So I love to like, because I learned something new today. This is something I never knew, and I'm glad that you guys talked about it. So thank you for introducing us a little bit to your world, and hopefully somebody gets something out of it.
Definitely. And I always believe, guys, that the best is yet to come. We just got to keep our head down, eyes up, and keep chasing every single goal that you make.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it.
It's been an amazing conversation. I can't wait to see the finished product. And just before we sign off, I just want to give a shout out to our guest, Melissa. Thank you so much for coming on. Squads out here in the world.
Hey.
And we get them showing out here. And I would just like to give a shout out to our sponsors, Seven Bros Apparel, and our new one, Laxed Hemp. And if anybody else is joining the team, slide up in our DM. And this has been another great episode with me, Tony. You know what? I think we don't need to sign off like that anymore.
Okay.
I feel like I don't know. I don't know if you agree, but I feel like it kind of ran its course in my mind. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, nothing's set in stone.
You were never really a big fan of it in the beginning.
Nothing set, nothing's set in stone. I feel like this is going to constantly evolve, and it's going to be its own thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's like I said, there's visions of things that we want to do. Like I can't wait for an intro. I can't wait for an outro. I can't wait for all that stuff.
I can't wait for the songs. You gotta.
Yeah. So these are things that are coming, but like if you don't want to end it that way, that's cool with me, man. It's all good.
We'll just do a real regular. It's been fun chatting. My name is Casey Ellen, and we're joined with my buddy Tony Chamberlain. And until next time, it's a good friend of mine, Melissa.